welcome to Game Reviewify. We're about to take a trip back to 1998 with a sport that of course will never be, because it could cost you your life, and that is Jet Moto 2 Championship Edition, which is the greatest hits version of Jet Moto 2. Funny story about Jet Moto 2 Championship Edition, as it was never meant to be released as a greatest hits. The reason was that when the creator of Jet Moto 2 was requested to send an original copy of Jet Moto 2 to Sony, the original master disc got destroyed. So creators modified a new version of the game which made it slightly different from the original game. So when sent to Sony, Sony replied to the creator saying that they need the original master disc, as it has to be the original game without modifications. So the creators sent Sony the original master disc. How new one was found, I have no clue. So DADC got the copy and accidentally copied the wrong version. And that's how Championship Edition was released. The creator said that DADC should have read the label as it clearly said what version of the game it was. In the Championship Edition of Jet Moto 2, we go from 10 characters in the original Jet Moto 2 to 4 during gameplay. This enhances better gameplay with more frame rates. Of course, a lot of people like the fact that Jet Moto 1 had a max of 24 characters during gameplay, but the game was pretty hard and there was noticeable frame drops. Not to say the game wasn't playable, but with 24 characters on the screen, each track made it very hard to drive around, as somebody would either smack into you or you would smack into somebody else, or you would smack into something in the level. I enjoyed the first game, but the game was clearly unplayable due to its difficulty. Well, I guess it's pretty obvious there's one mode missing from Jet Moto 2, and that's the knockout mode, which of course each race in the higher position knocks out the racers in the lower positions. Well, in this game, that mode would be obviously unnecessary, as there is a total of 4 players each race. If you thought Jet Moto 1 was difficult, well, you can relive the experience in Jet Moto 2, as every level in the original was released in Jet Moto 2. These levels already come unlocked in the Champion Edition of Jet Moto 2. Also, somewhere in the game it explains these levels can't be played in Season Mode, but they can be played. All you have to do is go to Custom Mode, then choose Championship, and press circle on each Jet Moto 2 level, changing them to Jet Moto 1 levels. Then exit back to the Mode Selection menu and select Season. The only issue though is every level is placed differently than the way they were in the original Jet Moto. There's a total of 11 characters, that's including a secret character. Each character has different handling, making each character either harder or easier to play with. With the secret character, I noticed that during gameplay you're reduced to 3 players. I am unsure why Single Track did this, but it could because the character's see-through effects slowed the frame rates a bit. Each character has its own ending, also each character unlocks its own secrets, example being the Max, which unlocks unlimited turbos. There is also modes that can somewhat modify how your levels look, like Cyberframe, which will modify the level from its original look to a wireframe, which would look like something the creators of the game would see while adding in graphics while making the game. There is also an upside down camera mode and also a TV camera mode. All the modes that would modify the way the levels look can really make this game difficult and somewhat unplayable. The only one that was somewhat playable was wireframe, which was still unnecessary to include in the game. There was also secrets that would modify how your character's vehicle would drive, from a sudden stop, which was really odd, and super agility, which would make your character drive more precise. Some modes in the game were good, and some were just not fun to play with, and sometimes have you wondering why this was added to the game to begin with. There is easy to advanced difficulty settings. If you play at a harder difficulty, a new difficulty is unlocked, which allows you to unlock more items. A lot of people found this game to be hard. If you get yourself into the game and teach yourself how to play properly, you'll find this game is pretty easy to play. The AI can be incredibly hard or it can be incredibly stupid, depending on the level. What I mean by this is there's moments in the game, depending on the level, where the CPU characters get into an accident and they seem to get stuck for about the time you play the whole track and win. Also, if you get stuck in this accident, you might as well restart the level and play again, because for some reason you get stuck and can't get out of it. There is also 2 levels I found with this issue, and it's one of the levels in Jetmoto 1 and one of the levels in Jetmoto 2. I found the game's graphics to be a lot better than the graphics from the first game. Also in the Championship Edition version, I see the characters' graphics were also updated from the original Jetmoto 2. Each level in Jetmoto 2 looks a lot smoother and more stuff is thrown into each level, unlike the first game, which has 3 categories of scenery like the forest, ice, and lake. And 3 levels were based off each category minus Nightmare. All the graphics in the original Jetmoto levels seem to be unchanged. The sound in this game was great. I liked the soundtrack, some decent rock music, electronic, and country as well. They also brought back a couple of soundtracks from Jetmoto 1 so they could be used in the levels from Jetmoto 1. I guess you thought Nightmare was pretty tough in Jetmoto 1. Well, you play it again in Jetmoto 2, you'll find it a lot easier than Nebulous, which is a mix of Heaven and Hell. Heaven has wider turns, while Hell will have that and those platforms, which are identical to the ones you'll find in Nightmare from Jetmoto 1. On the loading screen, you'll see a description of each level giving you a map of where everything is placed, showing you how difficult the level is. There's a total of 20 tracks in Jetmoto 2, that's also including the levels from Jetmoto 1. The new levels introduced in Jetmoto 2 have new obstacles and horizons to explore. Once a character unlocks a special in the game, you'll find them in your trophy case, which can be selected from the main menu. It's much easier than the first game when you have to punch in a combination of buttons to unlock any secrets in the game. This game also offers a 2-player mode for a fun multiplayer experience, but don't expect the same experience you'll get online, and not to forget, this game was made before consoles even had an online multiplayer. Well, I guess it's time to tell you what I think of this game. Well, I really think this game is fun and playable. Some people may find this game rather difficult, but if you get into the game, you may find this game easy to play. There's a lot of speed, tricks, and obstacles in the game that will bring you back for more. I found that they kind of updated on how the characters smack into objects in the game, because they don't fall off their bikes as easy as they used to in the first game. I really enjoyed the graphics in the game. They are a lot better than the first game, and the soundtrack in the game is identical to the first game and sounds pretty good. I found the game had a lot of extras that could be useful, but I also found some that weren't and should have probably not been in the game. A lot of people would complain that the characters dropped from 24 from Jetmoto 1 to 10 in Jetmoto 2 and to 4 in Jetmoto 2 Championship Edition. But I found this game to have increased frame rate, and I found it a lot easier to drive around. The AI was pretty smart, but in 2 levels the CPU could get stuck for about the length you played the level. With some minor downfalls in the game, I found this version of the game the most playable out of all 4 Jetmotos. That's right, there's 4 Jetmotos. That's including the original Jetmoto 2 and of course the horrible Jetmoto 3, which will probably not get reviewed because that was the most unplayable version of Jetmoto. I've been playing this game since its release back in 1998, so that can tell you how playable the game is. But you may find this a bit difficult. But as said, practice a bit and you'll get better. If you think you can get right into this game after playing Wave Race, you're wrong. And Wave Race is a lot different than Jetmoto. So this game may not be for you Wave Race fanboys. Well, I've decided to go away with the score system, as I find it a lot easier to just say if a game is playable or not. I believe all other games were reviewed accurately. I just find it a lot easier this way, and it's gonna happen from now on. Well, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Game Reviewify, and I hope you return for another episode. Thank you, and thanks for watching. Goodbye.